We're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Round 20 ratings here on the Blue Abroad YouTube channel. We are here to unpack the loss to Port Adelaide, the 14-point loss on Friday night. It is Sunday, 29th it is Sunday, the 28th of July, 2024. We are brought to you by Horizon Finance Group, of course. Pommie, happy Sunday, mate.
How thou doing? Happy Sunday, you say? Hey, yeah, isn't it? It's a bit cold, but
Yep.
got our health. We've got each other. I mean, these are wins.
It was Friday was a reminder that, like, you take for granted when we're winning. Like, you can never truly appreciate a win until you lose, because then you just want to go back to how good things were when you won. And then when you're winning, you're just enjoying it in the moment, and you try and capture that moment and you try and embrace it, but you never truly appreciate it until it's behind you.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've summed that up pretty well, to be fair. It's one of them things, isn't it? Like, wasn't it Johnny Mitchell who said, you don't know what you've got till it's gone? Wasn't it? They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. I've lost it. I go into my silly phase when we lose. It's how I stay. Okay, I have to switch off intelligence.
I definitely sat there biscuit ass for 24 hours after the loss. Saturday, I was all in my feelings, all in my emotions. And then I woke up this morning and then and that's the beauty of this. Like, what are we going to do? Are we going to sit around, like, mope about it? Are we going to look into the future and say, well, season's dead and, like, season's going to slip away? Can't see how we make a prelim or a granny. Can't see how we can play finals. We might miss finals. Like, are we going to do that? Or are we going to fucking unpack it, look at what went wrong, find a solution, and see exactly where we can improve? Like, what's the choice that we're going to make here?
I mean, life lessons with Uncle Bob and Uncle Terry. I mean, if you get knocked down, do you know what I mean? You can either run home and cry to your mum, or you can just dust yourself down and we go again, don't we? And that's all we can do. I mean, yeah, look, don't get me wrong. Losses are hard and it should hurt. It should hurt. If it doesn't hurt, you're not doing it right, I don't think. Yeah. But if they came out next week and were, like Terry's stolen the phrase, biscuit arsed, moping, having a cry. If I hear Cripps go, oh, we're not sure about playing Collingwood, they've just beat Richmond, I'd lose me banana. I'd lose my plot if I ever got an inclination that it's a little bit hard, they're a little bit scared. I'd lose it. So I feel like my duty is be the same. Like, yeah. But then again, like, I haven't been scared since I was 8. So I don't know what fear is.
Yeah,
I've heard about it. It's not real, though.
No, well, that's it. I mean, it's frustrating. It was disappointing, no doubt about it. Had this been the last month of the season and we had bowed out of the season, then obviously that would come with a different lens of frustration because you can't fix it. But with 4 games left, in the position that we're in, it can be fixed. And, but for the last month, and then maybe that other 4-week stretch where we lost to Geelong, Collingwood, we lost 3 out of 4 previously in the season. But for that, we've done it again, lost 3 of 4. There have been signs to suggest that this group can get themselves out of the shit. So that's what we're going to do. There's also another really special, I don't know what the word is, but there was another sobering and harrowing incident that happened, which I want to bring up and dedicate this show to, and really the rest of the year. So for those of you who have been in the chat and been with the channel for a while, you might remember Chris Sortas. Chris is famously known for being a big fan of Pommie. He was the one that used to type with the boxing glove emojis. He's been watching the channel for a long time. So unfortunately, Chris passed away. This is Chris in the middle. We got notified that he had unfortunately passed away. His brother reached out, massive Carlton fan, very passionate. He used to send me newspaper articles every week about what's going on. The last message I received from him was around Matt Kennedy and how we need to use him better. Lovely gentleman, and firstly want to send some condolences out to Chris and his family. And I think in the spirit of Chris, he wouldn't want us to be sitting around sooking. He would want us to find the damn solution and get on with it and fire up. And so I just want to take a moment to extend some love. This is a really new moment for our community, where someone who we know in the chat is no longer with us, and it also just reminds you like how real life is. And Chris unfortunately won't be in this realm to watch us win a flag, and he's going to be with us in another way. So a really difficult thing to bring up, but like I said, in honor of Chris, I think it's important that we do right and do what he would want to do, and just get on with it and fire up,
Yeah, and he loved this show as well. So, I mean, I'm sure you always saw the boxing gloves, give it to them, Pommie and stuff, like a real good man. Stevie's brother as well is an incredible supporter of both of ours as well. And I know he loved this show as well. I know Chris and Steve love this show. So least we can do is dedicate this to you, Chris, and safe journey wherever you are. And just it shows you, doesn't it, that there's more to life than football at times, and it makes the journey real. I mean, it's quite funny actually when I found out I'd actually done a video, because I was a little bit pissed off this week. I know Chris enjoyed me getting a bit fiery and getting a bit angry, and I did actually, when I was recording it, I was thinking, looking forward to seeing the boxing gloves, and it just shows you, do you know what I mean? It's it touched both of us this week. So sending my love to Chris and his family, and let's get this fucking job done. Hey, because I know that's what Chris would be. He'd be like, "Don't sit here biscuit arsed. Let's give it to the Blues. Let's get them back to where they belong, and let's win this fucking flag."
Yeah, absolutely. So that's exactly what we're going to do. If you are new to the ratings show, welcome. We're going to go through every single player. We're going to look at the key statistics and key metrics that make up their role, and compare them to everyone else in their role in the league. This might not be great viewing from a performance standpoint. I don't know. I haven't seen the ratings, but we're going to get into this, and we're going to find the issues. They're going to be there in plain sight for us to see, and we're going to look for the solutions, and then we're going to get on with it. So let's begin. Pommie, we're going to start as the team was named, as we always do.
I can't remember. Oh, it's Kemp, innit? Why you do this?
It's Brody Kemp.
Of the Kemp variety. This was a tough one, wasn't it?
Yeah,
as you can see, the two 1%ers are key measurements in his role. Not a one-on-one defender, but Brody, we would expect to see do the incidentals. Incidentally, did finish top of the pack with a few others on 3 intercept marks, but he was not really an outlet ball. You can see there a low end of the average for marks. And as we would have guessed, one-on-ones, he got obliterated. He did. Caveat to this, partly his fault. Also, a lot of it is structure. So in the second quarter, we actually see that he was probably tracking for about a 6.57, because Carlton had made the entry a lot deeper, which allowed him to run onto it and intercept it. Incidentally, 2 of them intercept marks were in that second quarter. But the other 2 quarters after that, he got a lesson from a guy that's bigger, stronger, very hard for him. And I think Brody will have learned a lot on that, because that's going to happen sometimes. They're not always going to protect you. Teams are going to target you. So tough one for Broads. Not the best time to come back, I don't think.
Yeah, and so like when I look at it, hindsight's a wonderful thing. You back Brody in. I think all of us were saying, why was he dropped in the first place? And obviously there's things that are going on, conversations that are happening that we don't have the context to. But, when I looked at it on Friday night, I mean, Radagalier is a big boy. Maybe our coaching staff weren't aware that Radagalier was going to go forward yet. I don't think he's played forward a lot lately. I spoke to some Port fans who said that they've been calling for a while. In that moment, was that a Marchbank job, or is it just, listen, you got to back your boy in and let him learn?
Well, Marchbank was sick, wasn't he?
I think he was sick last week.
Or was he still sick this week because he wasn't in the extended, was he?
True. You're right.
To be honest, when the ball's coming in like that, the only person who can do that job is Jacob Weitering, and Jacob Weitering is a freak of nature, and we're going to talk about him in a minute. Yeah, I think you could have played fucking Lewis Young on him. I think you could have played Marc Pittonet on him. Name a player out there you could have played. When the ball is coming in with that ease, with no pressure, Radagalier is a beast. And he showed that at Geelong. When Geelong got ascendancy, he looked pretty tasty as well. Good coaching, though, by Ken Hinckley. He targeted it. Yeah. And we've seen teams target him a lot of the time. So it's tough. But you know what? He's got to do it, and hopefully he learns from this.
What I love about Kemp, and I think on this occasion it wasn't his night, so he gets a 4 for his rating. What I love about Kemp, and I think you find out a lot about anyone when things are not going their way. So it clearly it wasn't going his way. I think his greatest attribute is he never drops his head. He continues to go at it. He'll make a mistake. He'll keep at it. And I think that's going to hold him in good stead. I know that we don't like patience, or we don't like that word, but the reality is he's at that point in his career where he's going to take some knocks to the head, metaphorically speaking. He's going to take some punches to the face in his role, and he's going to lose contests, and it's going to be what it's going to be. So I think this will be one where he'll learn a lot from.
Genuinely disappointing. Like I didn't want to play him this week. Full caveat. I'm all in on the Kent fan club. I felt like 2 games away from AFL football. Just get his confidence back, because you could see it was a little bit knocked the week he played last time. This probably wasn't the game, really. And it's a question for Voss, this. Young wasn't quite working in the forward half. Was it the switch? Just get him out of there, protect your player. But like you say, he never dipped his head, and that's commendable.
Yeah.
Hey, Ellie, cried.
Great to have you here. Thank you very much. Maybe we'll talk about... Yeah, go.
I would have fucking cried by about the third quarter. Fourth quarter, you would have seen me on the bench in tears, refusing to come out, to be fair. So fair play to him.
Yeah. We'll move along. We're going to touch on Weitering and McGovern and, what coulda, woulda, shoulda, but let's go with Jacob Weitering. So if you're new, again, if you see any of these statistics with an asterisk next to it, it means that the player led the team in that category. So as you can see, 1%ers, 11 of them. He took 6 marks, 275 meters gain. I'm going to assume that is Pommie instead of intercept marks.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Yep. And 87.5% one-on-one. So how do we look at Weeders this week?
Very strong from Jacob. This was one of the few highlights, I would say, in a midfield that was completely under the cosh. And so far this week, only one player has had more contested one-on-ones this week than him so far as the game's going. It looks like no one's going to do it in the Doggies game that's going on at the moment unless someone takes the piss, but he faced 8 and only lost 1.
Wow.
Which is phenomenal. The person above him is Alia for them, 10, and he lost 4. So it just shows you how good Weitering is. At times had to double up and help off Rataclear, which showed great leadership from him. He really did peel off. You saw him in the third quarter as well yell at his midfielders, asking them quite clearly about 12 minutes into the third, what the fuck are you doing in my defence? He said to one of the midfielders, which shows that he's got the confidence to be in charge. He was pretty much faultless this game. It's actually a shame because last week he had his moments with Lachie, but he predominantly did his job. This week I thought it really showed you just how good this guy is.
Yeah, I think that when I look at his game and when I, watched it back, so he's responsible for Charlie Dixon, who had a really strong performance the week before and was coming into the game with confidence and in form. I thought he did a phenomenal job on him. He then moved to Rataclear at times. Then there was that incredible contest, the one-on-one contest at ground level with, was it Horn Francis? I think it was. It was Horn Francis. I think, we've lost and there's frustration and there's emotion and all of that. But within that, you have a few performances in this game, which had Weeders not been there, I'm petrified of what would have happened.
He's just that damn good. He's just that damn good. And they're worth their weight in gold, defenders of his caliber.
Yep. So he gets an 8 for his game. We then move along to Adam Cerra. So interesting, named on halfback again. He played the halfback role. Let's open it up here and talk facts. What happened?
Yeah, last week, Cerra copped hate. He was admittedly better last week than this week, to be fair. Very weird, though, because for every little good bit thing he does at halfback, I feel like he's become the scapegoat at the moment for the halfback, quite rightly or wrongly. I think that's partly because people don't understand what a halfback does and what everyone does when they play it. And I think, too, as well, it's because we're getting dominated in the centre and he's not playing in the centre. But let's look at halfback numbers. 305 metres gained, really healthy. The score launches from the back of defensive half stoppages, really healthy. This was the issue here, and this is where I like him at halfback, full caveat, right? But I think you've got to give him the 50% midfield time because you've obviously pulled him out of the midfield for a reason. You're trying to float players through there. And again, Carroll took his mid-minutes, even though Carroll wasn't starting, which would then allude to me that Cunners was going to do that. So that's a question for Voss. I can't answer it for you. But I feel the secondary role, I don't mind this if this is like 50 minutes a game and then you're keeping him fresh and spurting him in through there. But when he's under the cosh, you saw this at Fremantle. He started life as a halfback flanker in the AFL. He was always the attacking halfback. He was always the one with no defensive responsibility. And this week, it felt really weird. It felt really weird. They were relying on him defensively, and you can see ground balls not good enough, intercept possessions, which were double that this time last week. He led the team last week in ground balls won in the back half of the ground. So a real funny one for Cerra. And it's going to be interesting when Boyd comes back, who's playing this role, because I don't think this is a role for Boyd either. This is like a new halfback role.
Yeah. Well, is this a Zach Williams? Like, what is this? Because for me, the Adam Cerra conversation is a broader topic around what's going on with the midfield. Something. Changes were made. We were, quote unquote, slow. We didn't have the same oomph is the best word I can think of right now off the top of my head. So we've made some changes. We've been a little bit proactive. We've tried to find some things. Cerra missed a chunk of footy. I believe it was the right call to bring him into the team. I understand the notion of, bringing him in through the VFL and selection integrity. I think Adam Cerra is going to be in the best iteration of this team. Maybe I have blind faith in him. I think he's proven himself to be of that quality. Are they protecting Adam Cerra? Are they looking at a different midfield mix because they don't trust him in there anymore? Like, I'm just so confused, and I don't want to draw conclusions because I don't know the context of what's happening. But we're clearly trying something else without him in the midfield mix.
Well, I mean, it's weird because we're going to talk about Walsh this week, and last week I really did like Carlton getting Walsh out of the middle. It's definitely Voss is reacting. Voss is reacting to the stoppage scores against, right? And he has to. He has to, right? The problem he's got now is Walsh is leading the team in defensive tackles coming through there, which the last thing we want Walsh doing is defending. Mm-hmm. Cerra was doing that. He's now putting faith in Jack Carroll, and I'm going to be full caveat. I said it in his draft, and I'll say it now. He's a man. He ain't a midfielder. Jack Carroll, he ain't a midfielder. So, for me, I don't mind him here as a rotation. The same with I don't mind Walsh on the wing for 20, 30 minutes a game. But he's got to be playing in the guts. He's a prime specimen midfielder, and I appreciate he's a little bit out of form. But no one keeps their form 24 games. For me, I was watching some of the touches Walsh had in space, and I was thinking Cerra would have hit the target. So his strength is his kicking. If you're playing him at half-back, give him the Kushti Boyd role. No defensive responsibility, hide out the back. Will find you and you spread play. But at the moment, he's playing like some kind of pseudo Nick Newman, Adam Saad role. Mm-hmm. I don't quite understand it. And I don't think it's doing his confidence any role well, getting smashed in the face by 8 small forwards every game. It's just not Cerra's game.
I can understand being versatile and trying things. I really can. Do you believe when it's all said and done, the best iteration of this team has Cerra in the middle, predominantly as a midfielder?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So, I mean...
Yeah. It's like, now that we've got Pitto there, we're going to need to really build that synergy over the next month off Pitto and with that midfield group that is in there. And yeah, I'm so confused with what's happening here. Maybe Cerra is just not right, not 100%, and maybe he's at 80%, and the power in his body isn't what it was, and then it's sort of protecting him a little bit, allowing him to recover. It's just there's so many unknowns.
Form is a funny thing, and when people question form, all it tells me is they've never done anything at elite level. Anything. Like I don't just mean sport, I mean work. They've never been elite. Because it's amazing how quickly it can come and go. Some days it feels good, some days it doesn't. The big thing with Cerra, though, and the big recommendation I could give to the coaches is don't pull him away. Because you've got Pittonet in there. You've got to change your midfield. Right? Straight away, you can't play the midfield you do with TDK. Because if you do, you're too slow. Just keep doing it. It's either drop him and he goes into the VFL to find the form, or you play him on the ball and you say, Atom, you're not getting dropped next week or the week after. You're going to find your fucking form, bro. Because I actually think it's making it worse. That third quarter, he was badly exposed. And I was like, come on. Like, get him on the ball. Get him away from this. Help him. Because Walsh was struggling at that point. It was the perfect chance. Move Walsh. Get him on the wing. Put Cerra on the ball. Give me something. Elijah's another player. Best second quarter we've seen. He was the best on ground that second quarter. He was moved further away from the ball when he got us back into the game. So it was a real weird thing, and I can't answer you. Like, obviously, Voss has his reasons. I'm speculating.
Yeah.
But it was gash.
Yeah.
Movements in this game, gash.
Yeah. You back him in to push
100%.
through it? Yeah, I do too.
Fucking class.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Okay, so Cerra gets a 5.5 for those of you who are listening through audio. Now we're going to move to Adam Saad. This was fascinating. Firstly, tell us about his game, and then I'll unpack a little bit about what we heard pre-game. So Adam Saad.
So you can see a natural halfback to Adam Cerra. So the ground ball gets really strong. The defense tackles for elite, really strong. The intercept possessions. Weird, this one, because these two did operate kind of like Saad and Boyd do, with the exception of every time anyone gave the ball to Cerra as opposed to Boyd, it was when he had 8 people on him. Not the same meter gains you saw, right? Not the same meters gain we'd expect to see, but I do love the fact that when we are under the shit, not many people have the testicular fortitude when you're surrounded by 6 players to bounce the ball before you start running. And it shows the confidence of this man. The big question again, now this is back at Voss, and I don't want this to become a Voss slagging session. This is just me spitballing. When you are under the cosh like you were, and we're going to talk really at length about one of the biggest misconceptions that is pissing me off, I need to get that off my chest, about how Carlton move the ball out of the back. Why aren't you getting this guy running with the ball out the back? Like, when all options are gone, this guy is your territory finder. And I felt in the third, we moved him into this lockdown role. And the ball couldn't get any more stodgy in the back half of the ground if we tried. Like, if you actually said to the players, I want you to have as many touches for the least amount of meters gained possible, I don't think they could fucking do it. So... free Saad up. This is where you've got to get creative and you go, right, Cowan maybe plays the defence area and we'll play Saad ahead of him, right? We'll try and do something like that. It's a real weird one, this one, because I felt like Saad's game was great, but it could have been world class.
Port clearly did their homework on him. They do it every time. Ken Hinkley, I think, is a big fan of Adam Saad. He sort of had a little slip up, not a slip up, but you know, one of the first few names he mentioned when they were talking about who does Willem Drew go to, he sort of said, okay, what about Adam Saad? And I watched it from level 2. They did not, there was such a clear focus to not allow him, A, to kick the ball long, and B, kick the ball at all. Now, he ends up having 6 kicks, 119 meters gained, tells the story of what we weren't able to do and what Port Adelaide were able to do. I believe the best version of this Carlton team is a version where we work harder than we ever have before for Saad. I don't think we've done it yet. I don't think we've had, he's come into this team for a couple of years now. I still don't believe we've truly, fully committed as a backline group to getting him the ball on the offensive end when it turns around. Am I just feeling too much?
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think his strength is that little short first possession, and then he takes off from it. And whether that's the most common one is the chip kick in the hot zone, 30 metres from goal to Mitch McGovern. Mitch McGovern inside out, handball to Saad. Saad bursts off. You saw it this game. Saad tried to do that himself. And Port were masters of this. And it's why I always say don't tag halfbacks. It's a waste of your time. Take away their short option. Because then Saad had the option, fuck, I can't gain momentum with this ball. I've got to stop, get the ball, and then take off. Gives you a chance to structure your defence in front of him. And they took that short option, and Carlton couldn't find a way. And then they started resorting to the classic where his hot zone is. We'll switch it to him this time, but kick it 20 metres behind him so he's got to burn energy getting the ball.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre one. I agree with you. Like this, if I was coaching, my entire plan would be, if in doubt, get this guy moving.
I mean, I saw the stat prior to round 20 that, you know, Sam Walsh has 13.7 handball receives per game. I don't know what the number is for Saad, but I believe for us to go into the promised land, the way the ball exits the back half has to be done with Saad at the top of the priority list.
Even if it's not like your primary thing, it should be when you're under pressure. The only two off methods are kick it out of the zone or run it out of the zone. And we don't seem to resort to the run it out of the zone. A team who are the masters of running it out of the zone, incidentally, were the team you played.
Yeah.
Port are very bold. And you've got God's gift to mankind here. Like when God put him on the planet, they gave him some kind of ability to pick the ball up one-handed and run. Mm-hmm. And you're not playing to his strengths.
No, I'm with you. So it's a 7.5 for Adam Saad. Then we move along to Mitch McGovern, who had no issue coming back into this team and playing with form. It was. I mean, when you look at it, he looked so fresh. And not to say that the 5-day break is an excuse. It might have been a reason for a collective lack of oomph later in the quarters and later in the game, potentially. But McGovern clearly looked like a guy that had missed a couple of weeks and refreshed.
It's an interesting one because I want to highlight the one negative, the 3 marks. I would be expecting here, especially the third and fourth quarter, the way the game went, hide him somewhere. He's been your primary exit out of D50. Look, 560 metres gained, phenomenal. Hide him somewhere and look for him on the switch and have Saad attacking the other. Because you'll notice both of them are condensed in the left-hand side of the ground where they set their 3-5-2. We'll explain what that is a bit later. But it's real interesting, this one, because he's probably one of the few players that has the ability to take... There's only one kick. When you play a good forward defence, and from your kicking particularly, there's only one area, and that is usually a 25, 30-metre kick through the corridor to a tall player. He's probably the only player in our team who can take that kick on with a high level of accuracy. And where he was getting the ball, he could never do it. He could never do it. He had to go long down the wing because suddenly the way the shape of the defence works, it was outnumbered, that area. Bizarre structure, but as a game, incredible what he did. His role, fantastic. 560 metres gain, best on ground. It's a worry when it's one of your big defenders, though, doing that. Won all of his one-on-ones, was good on the deck. His intercept possessions was strong. His knowledge of when to peel off his man was impeccable. He worked between Rataclia and Dixon as well, which was very smart from him. Mitch Giardinis got away from him a few times. Has to be said, but it wasn't his fault. It should be specified it wasn't his fault. They were caught on the overlap when Carlton play a zone. So, very strong performance by Mitch, and you can see why he's so integral.
Absolutely. So he gets a 7. I'll tell you something that was highlighted to me when I watched it back, and actually I didn't even need to watch it back, but I just remembered. Why is it that Mitch McGovern kicks the ball perfectly to Charlie Curnow in the space in front of him, but our midfielders don't?
Well, I mean, I can probably answer that because he's a forward.
True.
Does help. I mean, that's, when people ask, why is Kemp playing forward of the VFL? Why is Lemmy playing back? It's a common methodology for teaching to learn the habits from the mirror. It's called reflective learning. Sometimes it's good to know the consequences of your actions by being the person in your shoes. So, could be one of the reasons. He might not be a fucking idiot. That could also help him. I don't know, Terry. I can't answer you. I'm only speculating, but he's incredible. He's kicking his underutilized tool by this football club, I feel.
It was just brilliant. And then I think the other talking point was, okay, well, why didn't we put McGovern forward? I actually thought his work in defence was, along with Weitering, sort of keeping us in the game for various reasons. I felt it was too much of a risk to put him forward.
I was saying this on the watch along. It's quite easy to say move Kemp forward, but also we're going to get on to Lewis Young. When Lewis Young went down back, Ken Hinckley targeted him almost instantly. It was actually insane how their ball movement changed when Voss moved anyone above 5'8". Like my phone actually went off during the watch along, and it was Voss saying, "Pom, do you want to come and play in D50 for a bit? Like, we're running out of tall cunts." It's dangerous fiddling with that system too much, and I think it could have been. I reckon the damn wall would have broken more moving this guy than it would have been Weitering. I think if you put Young in Weitering's position and move McGovern forward, I think it would have been game over. Because he was one of the few attacking, like Debbie nails it. He took the game on. He was one of the few people when we were in the shit, looked like we could get out of the shit.
Yeah. So it's a 7 for Gov. We move along to Nick Newman. This is a pretty traditional heat map, the way I'm looking at it here. 6 ground ball gets, 6 marks, 8 intercept possessions, 332 metres gained. I think it was a pretty stock standard Nick Newman game.
I mean, this is the bizarre one, right? Like, this is the other one. It has turned into a Voss slagging session. I want to caveat, I haven't given up on Voss. These are just me trying to understand what the fuck I'm witnessing. You've got Adam Cerra there. Defensively, he's very good in the midfield, but as a halfback, it's a total different skill. All right? You have got a guy here who has got a doctorate from the kicking arse of small forwards university in Nick Newman, and you play Cerra as the protection for Nick Newman. It makes no sense. Like if you're playing him at halfback as the defender, you play Newman. So Newman got the attacking role, which was good on him. 332 metres gained, a little bit below the elite for Nick Newman, so he got a green. Usually you'd get a blue for that. 8 intercept possessions, absolutely fantastic. His ability to look for that short kick, which is really dangerous from midfield to half forward, he's always there, spoiling it, bringing it to ground. He's very sharp, really good at making himself available. So when Carlton get bogged down, we're going to talk about exits out of D50 later in the show. He's incredibly good at losing his position to be an option so we can try and get into the corridor so we don't have to go long down the wing. Selfless act as well. And he's ground balls. The guy's unbeatable on the deck. Very interesting that Voss seems to really be obsessed with him being attacking, though, where I think his numbers are telling you he's your best, not Weitering defender.
Yeah. So he gets a 7. He does have a lot of versatility. He's a high IQ player. Do you think because we were missing Akers, we saw him play this way?
He's been playing quite aggressive, though, for the last 3 or 4 weeks. It's why we've been complimenting Ollie when everyone's been trying to shoot him. Because Ollie has been doing, ironically, the Cerra role, which now Cerra lives in. At least Ollie gets forward. It's a funny one because I don't actually think this fixes stoppage. When I look at it, I don't think it does. So some of it I can understand. This one I don't. But, I mean, that being said, Nick Newman never has a bad game. Like, you could probably put Nick Newman fucking serving the coffees and he'd still be the best defender outside of Weitering. So, I mean, fair play to him.
Yeah. So a 7 for Newey. We're going to move along. We're going to start with Ollie Hollands really playing that role on the right-hand side. I mean, the effort indicators are generally always there. How do you look at his game?
Right. I mean, at the start of the game, it wasn't in the Pomm plan. Ollie becomes Blake Acres, and it quickly became Ollie is Blake Acres. And no disrespect to him, Will Drew lived on this wing. So when he wasn't taking away the short option, Will Drew was down their left-hand side and said, let's have a fucking bubble. Mental. Like, this one is mental. It was tough, this one. This was a real hard wingers game, and he got a lesson from a guy that is very, very smart. Where last week we started to see a bit more aggressive, he's gone back to the defensive. This was another one where I was watching him like Kemp, and I was thinking, surely at some point Voss is going to be like, let's just shoot him, he's already dead. Like, and I felt sad because everyone's on Ollie's case, and the reason that they're on Ollie's case, they don't understand what the other players are doing, right? And what he's facilitating. Here, he was facilitating nothing other than he was going to get a spray from the fans at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally what was going to happen. And, you know, there's no one. Like, if Jackson Binns plays this role, I'm going to make sure I'm going to screenshot every comment anyone's made about Jackson Binns. Because, tell you what, you're all going to lose it when you see Jackson Binns have to play this role. Like, this is a tough role. You're a big boy to play this role. Akers is a gift. He's a giant winger. It's not Ollie's game. And I felt sorry for him because this was... confidence has gone.
Yeah. Again, similar to Kemp, I think what's most important here, he cannot afford to drop his head. None of them can.
It's tough. And like when you are doing this role, you saw last week, Voss switched him, got him up there. At the moment, we're playing this winger like defensive, almost like a defensive halfback to try and get overlap the other side. It's not a normal winger's role. He won't have ever played this, where he was given this luxury. I mean, the person who actually got the attacking role was Elijah, and Elijah needed to go on the ball at that point. It's a bizarre one. Tough game for Ollie. All minutes, though, in the bank. All minutes in the bank. Yeah. He got a masterclass from Will Drew, and hopefully it serves him in good stead.
I hope so. Hopefully he can have a big response next week. He gets a 4. We'll move along. Patrick Cripps. Wow, this looks like a wall. This is the first, I guess we could get into the midfield, but I'm seeing a lot of us hemorrhaged into that back half. What do we make of Cripps' game?
You've seen the wall twice.
Yep.
And every time, it's a fucking bad thing. It's not a good thing. This is basically exposing here where Carlton just could not defend that outlet ball. And it meant that everything started to come off. In the third quarter, everything was reactive to that kind of pressure. And it's kind of hard because the way to fix it is also incidentally the way you make your stoppage game and your defensive and your midfield defense worse. You've got to move these players out there. And Cripps, God bless him, captain's work, had to go down to the wing because that's where Carlton were trying to exit and get some safety. And this isn't his game. But what Cripps showed was heart and courage, leading the team in contested possessions, ground ball gets, dominated clearances, dominated tackles, anything that came near him, he hit. This was one of them games where after what he had in his 200th, when people talk about, I just can't trust Carlton, there's one man here who fucking who can say that. Only one human being on the planet says, I don't trust Carlton, and I'll listen to this guy. Because 2 weeks out of 3, he's been reliving 2018 with what he's had to do. He's had to do it. And it felt hard this week because I felt the options were there to help him and get around him. And I didn't feel like we were willing to make that switch. I would have loved to have seen Cerra go next to him. I'd have loved to have seen Elijah go next to him, give him something. But this week he didn't get it. Yeah.
So, looked, I saw, I think it was the AFL Ratings Twitter account. They tweeted out a number of graphics around centre bounce attendances. Cripps was in our CBAs 91.7% of the time.
Has to be.
So we're losing the clearance battle. Why would we put Cripps forward if we're already losing the clearance battle?
Well, who suggested that?
No, as in, the general comments throughout the weekend was why didn't we try Cripps forward? Voss has got no idea, etc., etc. I think if Cripps, similar to Weitering, you take Cripps out of that middle, we lose that clearance battle by even more, no?
Well, see what I said. So, like Steve asked about, was spot on, Steve, where he said, put McGovern's got to stay back. Same with Cripps. Like, if you're going to try anyone, that has to be your last option. Like McGovern out of the back line, last option. Cripps out of the midfield, last option. So you're spot on, Terry. I mean, like, what more can he do? Like, there's got to be a point in time where it was tough, but at the moment, we need to get someone to help him. And this week, Hewett did his job. Cripps did. When they won the ball, there was no one to get rid of it, and it was a real bizarre system this week.
Cripps gets an 8 for his game. As we move along now, we get to Matty Cottrell. Had an important role to play this week. How did you assess his game and his role?
Well, you can see there, he did all right for his role, scored. So, like, predominantly, you found this little sexy little beast on a very dangerous gentleman that everyone always gets worried about, a guy called Dan Houston. And very similar to what they did to Saad, we did to them. We tried to take away his short option, and he did well. That's why he got 15 Ks. They almost ran the same times, Dan Houston, for most of the time. They were literally, I'm pretty sure Dan Houston got home and Cottrell accidentally followed him. Took his goal well. Was a real good outlet as well down that wing for Carlton. The second, third kick when we got there. Couldn't quite get anything going though, really, when he had the ball, which was a shame. But from a defensive aesthetic and when he was deep in the forward, he did really well. This was one of them games, though, that when you've only got to look at how Carlton played for 3 quarters versus 1, he was brilliant in that second quarter. When the ball movement slowed down, the team that was picked wasn't going to be good for that game plan, and Port knew that.
Yeah. I felt we needed more from him. He gets a 6 for his game. I think particularly with Akers out, but we'll touch on that shortly.
Well, I mean, a winger didn't get the wings job. Who would have thought?
Yeah. Fogarty. This is new. This is very new.
It has been an option over the last 3 weeks when the stoppage game and the clearance game starts to get really bad, that the first button pressed is Fogarty out of forwards around the ball, the Orazio Fantasia role. And he offers something that Orazio doesn't. That's just pure defensive craft and the pressure acts. And real interesting one. Like, for me, it's a real interesting one when you watch Fogarty do this, because then you see the forward line completely capitulate when the ball hits the deck. And with a small forward line, it's basically wet weather football. Get the ball in there as many times as possible, make it a scrap. The top teams that play small teams do that a lot. And this felt like a waste. Like, this is here, play Cerra. Play someone else.
In this role?
Cerra averages 5 tackles in the midfield when he plays the defensive role.
Yeah.
But this is moving Cripps out of the midfield when the stoppage is hemorrhaging. You're moving Fogarty out of the forward half when the back half for them is becoming a threat. It's a weird one for me, Terry.
Yeah. Yeah, this is... When I see this heat map for Lachie Fogarty, my instant reaction... If I didn't know the scores, I would say we lost this game.
Mate, and the fact, again, he managed to be in just about every score count and ad.
Yeah.
But poor.
He gets a 5.5. I think it's also due to the fact that we just, especially in that second half, mate, we just could not get anything locked into our forward half. We're going to touch on the forwards shortly. And I guess that is a cause and effect as to why we see his movement the way it is.
Mate, there's two recognised the oldest ways to give your midfield your forwards, your defence a break. One is create a lot of repeat entries in the forward half, lock it in, give them a rest. The other one is try and create contests out wide on the wing, which is why you see that exit ball that's really deep out there. Moving Fogarty into the midfield is stopping both of them happening very quickly, and it's an interesting one. I understand it. I'm not saying it's stupid or foolish. I need someone to tackle. I need someone to wrestle the ball back out of the stoppage, and the guy does that for a living in the forward line. He was a midfielder when he grew up. He was a midfielder when he joined Geelong. Is it the right cog to take, though? Is it the right cog? Probably not. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, though.
For sure. So 5.5 for Lachie Fogarty. Now we're going to talk about Lewis Young, who obviously came into the team on, short notice. Bless his soul. Plays in the VFL all year as a defender. And he's tasked with a forward ruck role to replace Harry Mackay. I would hope that there is a level of common sense when we talk about Lewis Young, and there's some context needed. And this is just a role that he doesn't play a lot of. So it was really tough for him.
Well, I mean, first, before anyone says, why didn't Lemmy play? Why didn't fucking me mate Uncle Buck's kid play? Very important to understand. The AFL rules are crystal clear on this. If there is an out within 24 hours of the team named, that replacement has to be named on that emergency. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. So whoever you name, it's not going to happen. So that would indicate to me that Carlton were almost 100% convinced Mackay would get up, right? So would be 100% convinced. Thank God they named Lewis Young. They have done it at times where they've just named 3 small players and we could have been in a world of fucking cravats there. But Lewis Young came in, he played forward. Now, I didn't mind his first and second quarter because I felt like he did pretty well at making Zirk Thatcher have something to do.
Yeah.
My big issue was he stayed forward for the first 5 minutes in the third quarter. Carlton got the ball in. They pissed about with it for about 10 minutes. They slingshot it out the back. And then Carlton moved Lewis Young down back. And he had 2 one-on-ones, lost both of them. And didn't do much, as you can see there. And we had 5 tall players in the back half of the ground really clinging on. You can see only 1 blue touch from a guy that spent 30% in the back half of the ground. Not good. Not good. Interesting, because this is simple for me. Full forward, leave him there, 4 quarters. Tell Charlie to play high up the ground. It's all right. We're going to always make sure there's a player. I thought that was the simple plan. Didn't quite materialise, and I felt sorry for Young in the end because you're playing a role you've never done, and then you're playing down back all of a sudden.
Yeah. Well, we just didn't have another... I mean, Lewis wasn't really an aerial threat when we were moving the ball forward. When you're comparing him to what Harry Mackay gives us, you're reminded pretty quickly, firstly, how great Harry Mackay is at what he does. And then when you're throwing Lewis back into the back line, it's just tough. So I thought it was a really, really tough one for him. Fascinating how it played out with the Harry laid out. Obviously, they were crystal clear, rock solid, confident that Harry was fine. I wonder if they had their time again, if they would have put Harry Lemmy in the emergencies just in case. But maybe that's I don't know. Don't have context.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to look at it this way. I mean, who did you have on that emergency? You had Jordan Boyd, 1.82 metres. If you've made the decision to go with Cowan, McGovern, there's obviously a reason he was on the emergency for me. It's probably that they weren't wanting to commit him straight away, which is good football management. Let's give Voss some credit. Don't bring him back straight away.
Yeah.
But Jordan Boyd, if you'd replaced Harry Mackay with Jordan Boyd, can you imagine that? What's Jordan Boyd going to do? He's the smallest player on ground.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. My son, just looking at me there, David, he won't be far off 182. So It's an interesting one. You had to do it. But, yeah. Poor.
Gets a 5. Bless him. Now we're going to move to Elijah Hollands. So now we've started to really show this left side and this right side of the ground in round 20. Mate, I thought his first half in particular, he was... I don't think I've seen him that good as an individual.
His second quarter was filth.
Yeah.
Right? And this begs the question. I think Voss was correct in the third quarter, looking at stoppage and going, right, we need something different here, because he obviously made the decision that Lewis Young wasn't working, right? We've established you can't move Mitch McGovern. He's been your most potent defence. You put intercept defender. You can't move Weitering, right? So then you move Kemp forward, maybe. But you could tell we had to get the ball moving forward quickly. And that is mantra 1. That's what happened in the second quarter. You could see the 5 minutes in the second quarter, they made 2 structural changes. They moved JHF off the ball. They brought Travis Boak in and around the ball more. It stopped Carlton's quick kick away, and Carlton had to have the extra handball, which then would allude you need an extra runner there. And I thought the guy who was putting his hand up after the second quarter was this guy, because everything he was hitting targets. There was that wonderful passage of play where he streamed off Jace Burgoyne. He's taken the intercept. He's spoiled it. He's taken it. He's whipped a ball out to Ollie. And then he has overlapped everyone. 65 out. The ball comes, hits him on the chest. He flicks the ball out and get a goal. I felt like, and I said it in my review, there was a moment in that 10 minutes into the third, someone needed to put their hand up and go, today's my day. I felt like Elijah was top of the queue, and he didn't get that. And Carlton then played him in this real pseudo-defensive position. And he kind of went off the radar after the second quarter, but real strong. 6 marks, elite for a player of his ilk. 7 score involvements, elite for a player of his ilk. 4 tackles, and the running, man. 15.2 kilometres, selfless gut running all day, real strong. And in the end, like a big brother, he came to help his little brother, which
he did.
I suppose we're Carlton fans. Everyone tells me being a brother's super important. So good work. Well done.
Well, he gets a 6 for his game, Elijah. As we move along, we get to Jesse Motlop, second game back. Always good to see him playing footy again. We're obviously seeing here with this heat map that similar to what we saw with Orazio Fantasia, who maybe we'll touch on later, playing a bit more of a versatile role than what we've seen traditionally from him. It's hard when you've got limited opportunities in that forward half, in the second half.
I really enjoyed Motlop's game. So, with Lidge, it was real one good quarter backed up with 3 really mediocre quarters. And some his fault, some not his. Motlop was another interesting one because I thought that quarter he kicked the goal. He had the tackle inside 50. He was lively. He was threading handballs here. When Voss made the decision to add a forward into the midfield, I felt Motlop was the call. Because I felt like Fogarty doesn't need motivating. Fogarty, I feel like he's quite simplistic. Whatever gets the ball that hasn't got the same shirt as you, I want you to kill it. Motlop, I feel like you've got to be a bit more nuanced. You've got to get him involved in the game. He likes to feel that. I felt this was the guy you brought in as the extra around the stoppage. It's the role he's played in VFL. Every game he's played in VFL since we've drafted him, he's had mid-minutes. I felt like this was it. Play him around the stoppage. Get him invested. The game's going against Carlton. He might have that touch of class, that magic, because he likes it. I felt like he wasn't given the opportunity. And I felt that third quarter, he sat there biscuit-arsed in the forward 50. And can you blame him?
Yeah. Let's have a look. He gets a 5.5 for his game. And then we get to Charlie Curnow.
Terry doesn't like Motlop. Just skipped over it.
No, I do like Motlop. I'm more excited to talk about Charlie Curnow because... can I get a pulse check? Is he still lazy and selfish? Thought he was a madman with his work rate in this game.
Yeah, there's been a lot of selfish accusations. Not doing the team thing. And I felt here Harry will have watched this game and maybe smiled a little bit because there was a bit of Harry in this game. There's a bit of Harry in this game, particularly when he spent a whole quarter fullback. I wake up in the middle of the night since the game going, "Don't move the ball back, Vossi!" And Mrs. Pom's like, "What's wrong?" But no, he was sensational. His work rate up the ground was phenomenal. 6 inside 50s. Now, if this is ever asterisk, so you remember when I said Harry had 2 tackles inside 50 once, and he was the leading tackle on the ground. I was like, if you ever see the asterisks and it's Harry, that's a problem. If you ever see the inside 50 being an asterisk and it's a key forward, bad times. Because we want someone kicking it to him 6 times, not him kicking it to 4'3" players. Marc's on the lead, sensational. His ability to create separation this game was impeccable. It's a shame the midfield didn't back him up. Goal was fantastic. The tackle inside 50. I'm going to count this one. I didn't count it last week because the guy had a Joe Biden doing a debate moment and just stopped and froze. This time, Charlie actually chased the guy down, nailed him, and won the ball back. And then he went down back, which will affect his output on the scores. And I agree with Debbie. I thought you saw here a very unselfish footballer because I think if you told Jesse Hogan, going to send you down back for a quarter because the back line's struggling, I think he would have refused. I actually think Hogan would have looked at Kingsley and said, "Sub me off. I ain't doing it."
Yeah, I'm not doing
it. He did. And he did
Yeah.
well.
It was so bizarre. I thought we were kicking it to his advantage well in the first half. And then in that second half, it just became everyone forgot that Harry wasn't there. And it was like they were kicking to Harry. Now, the way we were kicking the ball under the pressure, not able to withstand it, not able to work through it, get into space, and allow our midfielders, allow ourselves a chance to kick to him the way we should. Credit to Port Adelaide as well. They obviously adjusted to the way that they were defending him. I thought in the first half he was going to kick 10 the way that they were going. The way it was working, Aaliyah around left and right, moving, it was tough. It would have been tough. You would have been a bit fatigued as well. But the other part as well, the play to Kent, the play that set up Jesse Motlop's goal where he tapped it to Kennedy. Kennedy centers the ball to Motlop. Like, that just doesn't get spoken about because it's not a stat. A tap on is not a stat. But it does go into the selfless category. The direct goal assist to Kennedy's goal, I think it was, could have blazed away. I think hopefully we could put to bed the idea that Charlie's not doing his role. I think Charlie's done his job most of the time this year.
You know, one thing that I did like I think your passage of play was amazing, and it's something that's understated. Do you know what I mean? Having the knowledge to paddle the ball on. Do you know what I mean? Where he could have maybe gone up for himself. One of my favourite moments, though, was fourth quarter. Carlton haven't seen outside of rebound 50 for about 2 days. It felt like a test match, that third to fourth quarter. I felt like I was there 5 days. But he literally backs into the pack, and you can see Ratakalia and Charlie Dixon doing everything they can to get it. And he takes the mark, and then he looks up, and he absolutely puts a peach down the wing. There's about 65 metres. Nice bit of draw. And he must have been so disheartened to realise that he was kicking to Owies, who was against Zerk Thatcher. Like, Curnow must have gone, fuck, if Harry was there, that would have been a mark, baby. Like, I can't kick it better than that. But interesting, he goes back. I've got to say, it scares me how good he is down back, to be fair. Like, he's joking apart. I hate it, but fuck me, he's good down back.
He's good. He's the only one. He was the only player. I think Kennedy took a contested mark for his goal, but Charlie was the only one forward of centre that had any ability to do anything in the air.
Mate, spawn.
Yeah. 6 inside 50s it's a joke. 6 inside 50s when you're the sole key forward in the side is telling, I think, as well. So we get to 7.5 for his game. Do you think, now that we know that we're only going to be playing with one ruck, do you think Jack Martin has a role to play as a marking target in our forward line? Or am I just overreacting to the fact that Harry wasn't there?
No, I think you've... I mean, obviously we're speculating. I don't know. I don't know who was... If Harry was sick, I don't know what that was. So I'm only going to go on the assumption that Harry was fine. Right, Harry was fine, trained, Friday morning came and he felt a bit icky. I'm just going to go with that theory. But I would have thought if there was a chance Harry was ill, you would have maybe brought in someone like Lewis Young. Let's say Lewis Young was the full forward. I would have maybe said that if you were doing that, maybe Jack Martin plays. Do you know what I mean? Because you do need the marking prowess. I don't think Lewis Young, they were expecting him to be brilliant, but I think maybe hindsight, wonderful thing. I think maybe that gives you the option, doesn't it? Because it did feel like even when Lewis Young was there, he was never going to take a mark.
Yeah.
He was never going to take a mark. But that goal, I think, was really important because it opened Charlie up, because it's quite interesting. They put Houston on Young for a while in the first quarter because they didn't take him serious. He kept fumbling marks, so they were like, don't put him on. When he kicked that goal, though, Zerk Thatcher went straight to him. So it would have been interesting if Martin had played. That would have probably given them a bit of defensive responsibility because it was too easy.
Yeah. So a 7.5 for Charlie. Let's move along. We'll get to Matt Owies. Kicked a goal, 2 score involvements, 2 tackles inside 50, which led the team, and 2 forward 50 ground ball gets. Saw him go for a bit of a run on that left wing. Matt Owies running down the wing.
It's a problem because we've had 5 forwards so far 4 or 5, and all of them have this dirty red defensive side.
Yep.
It's genuinely something that it's a bad time when that happens. If one of them, it's okay.
Clear
bad
breakdown.
time if it's all. And at times, what did Carlton do? We went into defence mode. We had nowhere to go, so you go for the fat side of the ground, the wing. That's great when you've got Harry, TDK, Charlie manning that wing, and that's who you're kicking to. When you've got Owies, as hard as he works, and I know David T calls him a specialist aerialist, which I still don't know what it means, but it sounds good. He's not going to win that battle. This was a tough game. Like, you don't want him being your defensive exit playing on Zerk Thatcher. Like, it's Terry's famous Mickey Gibbons full forward. It's that. He's never winning it. He's never winning that battle, as good as he is.
Yeah. It's tough.
Like, he can't. Like, do you know what I mean?
Gets a 6 for his game, Matt Owies. Then we start looking at the followers. So we start with Pitto. This is very much not a traditional Marc Pittonet heat map. I don't think I've ever seen a heat map for Marc Pittonet look like this.
Very interesting that Carlton always go out the left-hand side of the ground. So they always go down the left, right? So that's why we play Akers there. It's the defensive outlet when we kick there. It's every side favours a side. Do you know what I mean? Sydney favour the left-hand side as well, incidentally. Interesting that you've got one guy here who, I mean this with all love, he doesn't do much around the ground. He would have been the first person you would have deployed on the left-hand side of the ground. Said, at least you're big. Like, because all you've got to do is not mark it there. Harry makes it look easy. He marks it. You've got to bring it to ground and hope that you've got Owies there and Motlop at the fall of the ball. And that's how Carlton score a lot from kick-ins, particularly. I didn't understand this one, Terry, because his ruck work, elite, brilliant. Score launches, it's not the score launches that we're expecting from TDK, 6, 7, 8. We know his limitations. The marks around the ground, okay. Clearances, okay. He got the ball forward. It just worries me a little bit that he's not TDK. So give him that role. No Harry there. It felt obvious to me. Play him up either full forward if you move young. Give him be a target. Or get him involved in the game. Just felt like a bit of a nothing game. I felt we really underutilised him here. Really underutilised him.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit perplexed at this. He's not going to have TDK numbers when it comes to score launches or marks. I mean, TDK averages only 3 or 4 marks a game anyway. Thought the intercept mark that he took, I think he took 2 marks in the first quarter. I got excited. I thought we're onto something here.
He did. We played him, ironically, a little bit more advanced. They kind of see them where Terry's on about that red down the right, just towards half them 2 things. That's where the marks were, Terry. One was the intercept from the exit, and then one was that wonderful passage of play where you saw the sexy Elijah Hollands spin out of trouble. He had nowhere to go, and he just drilled a kick to Pitt. And Pitt looked shocked it came to him. But it was a great little passage of play. And I thought, okay, you've got something here. I just felt that red there should have been at the top. And I'll explain why later. But if that was at the top, make him the target. But it was just a below average game. You saw Jordan Sweet was one of the highest rated players on the ground as well at one stage. His handballs from that hit, that was a big area for us this week to look at, taking it from the ruck contest. That's a new problem because TDK doesn't allow that. Because Pittonet doesn't jump, it allows that option. So that's going to be something Carlton are going to have to look at. And I'm going to predict he's going to have 5 tackles next week, Pittonet.
Gets a 5 for this game, Pitto. He's going to need to be better. Sam Walsh. That looks like a Marc Pittonet heat map.
The traditional red is a bit too big for Sammy. It's a bit too big for Pittonet, that red. Usually it's like the small dot, but this is an interesting one, Terry. I mean,
what is going on here?
Well, I mean, last week we had that beautiful red up the left-hand side where Voss had pulled him out of the midfield and pinch hit him through. And I said last week, it's a worry when you something to watch last week. My one negative with our midfield was the tackles were led by this guy again. I was like, it's too many tackles. Like, I'm glad he's doing it, but we want him more out in space. We want him more getting the ball. And look at all these blue dots defensive side. So everyone's picking on Walsh's kicking, right, at the moment. Fair enough, 40%. It don't fly. However, he was the only midfielder at times who understood the mandate. 1 tall, 5 smalls, just get the ball forward. If we can just get that ball forward, Fogarty, Motlop will take care of the rest. It has to get out of there. I ain't pissing about and handballing sideways. And then look how deep that's gone, though, now. Like, he's got further and further back, where eventually his average starting position was next to Hewett. Far too defensive, because then what happens? When he does get the ball, they handball to him. You saw Hewett a few times win it. Where are you, Walshy? Walsh is running into traffic. He isn't out the back of the stoppage, which is where he's strong. Second quarter, he managed to get our goal side all the time of stoppage. So that handball, he only had to beat one person. This was a real poor structured game for Walsh. But defensively, A grade. I mean, if anything happens to Hewett again, at least Walsh has said he can do that job.
Yeah. But look, the defensive side of the game very rarely is in question. Really interesting to see how far deep defensively he was forced to go.
Well, I mean, you can see it there. These here we don't want. Like, the best Walsh work we see was like last week where we have that lot on the wing. So left wing, that's where we like to traditionally rest him. But you want these blue dots, the goal side, because that's where you think we're good. And my concern, Debbie makes a good point. I don't think he's got back problems or anything like that at the moment. My concern is that I don't really want him being so physical because he's had them issues. Because them issues, the club have confirmed, are going to be something he manages for the majority of his career. This is where Cerra last year was leading our defensive tackles outside of Cripps. Play him a little bit more advanced. But Albert, I agree with you, bro. Last week, we were lauding that structural change of getting him out high half forward, out the wing, giving him a break and then spurting him in. And we were expecting Cerra to become Carroll this week. And he also is out of the way and comes back. Felt like we really put too much Cripps Walsh time into the midfield this week.
I was about to say to you, I'm looking at this heat map and looking at Walsh's heat map last week where he saw him in that forward left quadrant for us. I'm just a fan, but I would love this heat map to be Adam Cerra's heat map.
What, play him off halfback?
No, this one. Sorry, what we're looking at right now, Walsh's heat map right now, I look at it, I'm like, shouldn't this be Adam Cerra?
Yeah, I think you go back to when we looked really sexy. You go back to the stoppage game last year, and the stoppage game's not coming back, right? Yeah. So it ain't coming back. Just scrap that, fucking forget about it. But when it did look really sexy was when you had Hewett playing that really strong defensive role. Mm-hmm. Cripps was just winning the ball. And then Cerra was the first handball received. And he would either kick it out wide to Cottrell, Akers, or he'd thread that sexy little handball and Walsh was hiding out the back of the stoppage. And we used to start him on the wing at the centre bounces and he'd make that darting run towards goal. And you saw sometimes Cripps would have a man hang off him and do the overhead handball and suddenly Walsh is out in space. That's Walsh's strength. People forget. Nick Dacos today, Carlton fans were laughing, going, he's had 6 turnovers when he had 15 contested. Go and look at contested ball winners. They genuinely go at 50% for each of their contested possessions, right? So if you do the times they kick, Walsh is always going to do that when he's getting the ball defensive side. His skill is when he's out in space. So that's why we're suggesting that wing mid-roll. Get him out in space. Get him having fun. Don't want him defensive. Cerra is more defensive than Walsh, and I don't want to see this guy there. It's like playing Dustin Martin as a defensive midfielder. You wouldn't do it.
No. All right. So Walsh gets a 6.5. Now we're going to move to Cincotta, who had quite a bit more influence or had quite a bit more of an opportunity at centre bounce. 30% of our centre bouncers had him in there.
Yeah. And why is that, do we think? Because he's tagging role for the first time. He actually fucking tagged a midfielder.
Yeah.
And stayed with him at centre bounces. It's been weird. Voss has liked to deploy him at half back or half forward and get him to join it after the event. Really interesting this, because I think there may be something to move further down the track. If it's not Cerra, could it be this guy? Could it be this guy? Because you looked here, 4 tackles, all of them were in the centre of the park. Ground ball gets this guy here. He turned me on in the third. There was a passage of play where, if you watched what Port were doing, they were trying to get repeat second stoppages. They were trying to get it because they could sense Carlton were fucking up. This guy here has got an uncanny ability. The ball's there and he doesn't fuck about with it. He just picks the thing up and gets it out.
Yep.
I was watching this and going, okay, I like this. I really like this. Is this what Voss is looking for? Voss needs someone in close to get the ball out. Has he accidentally found it with Pommie? Because he had, after Butters killing him for a half, I didn't even know Connor Rosie was playing until Pommie went on Rosie. And that's not because Rosie beat him. That's because Pommie's my boy. I love him. But I was like, oh, fucking hell, Rosie is playing. Oh, you're tagging him? Like, you've been useless all game, Connor. Don't get it. I think maybe this could be, move away from the tagging. You want that extra player around the ball. Give him this role when you're not tagging. Give him this. Maybe this is the answer, Terry, because I liked his work in close.
Yeah. Well, he's such an honest player. He's an honest and disciplined player.
You know what? I hope Lou's right, my boy Lou. Good day to you, Lou, as well, mate.
Hey, Lou.
I hope Nick Dacos. I want to see Nick Dacos and Pommie. I reckon that is a matchup. Do you know what I mean? The one element of Pommie's weakness is probably his endurance. He's good at it, but you look at the data, he's as quick as Dacos. And I'd love that battle. Him and Nick Dacos, give him it.
Well, you kind of know that it'll be a 4-quarter effort, a 4-quarter tag.
And we haven't seen anyone, we haven't seen Voss yet tag the person that is a bastard for our stoppage game. And it's the guy that makes I call it the Tuck Miller run. They stand at the back of the stoppage, they wait, they see we're going to win it, bang! Bang, they run through it. Chad Warner did it against Carlton. We didn't tag him. Right? This week, Jason Horne-Francis was the guy charged with doing it. We didn't stop him. Nick Dacos, that's their one wood against the Blues. It's going to be just get that ball on the deck, someone run through. If you can run through and beat Carlton's first wave, game over. I want these two to go up against each other.
Yeah.
Go up against each other because, like Eddie's saying there, like Eddie's been really happy in chat. He's been really happy. He's played players who are equally as smart. So Toby Green is one of the smartest players at losing players around stoppage. Bontempelli is very smart at losing players around stoppage. Isaac Heaney, incredibly clever around stoppage. He's played players who are very similar to Nick Dacos, who are part-time midfielders, full-time stoppage specialists. Nick Dacos' super strength is his IQ. I'm a huge Nick Dacos fan. Full caveat. I think that's the role. Stop Dacos having that run. I think that's how Voss fixes the stoppage, personally. Get rid of that handball and find the handball yourself. But I'd love to see these two go up against because he's going to get a lot of ball. A lot of ball. Everyone who's tagged Nick Dacos has had lots of ball.
Let's see how we go. So we get to 6, Alex Cincotta this week. And then we move to Lachie.
Amazing as well.
Yeah. Then we move to Lachie Cowan. I don't know what his rating is, but I want to give him a 10 for. I'm becoming a fan favorite. He's becoming a favorite of mine. I love what he does off the ball for his teammates.
I'm with you. This was a really weird one for him because I felt like he needed. I felt like he was kind of like there. I mean this with like real niceness, but going back to what some of the guys were saying in chat about we should have played Boyd. When I watched this game back the second and third time, I didn't understand the role. So I was like, if he was 100% fit, maybe this is the change, because I felt like the way that their forwards are, they kind of were matched up. And then Cowan was kind of just there, the extra, the surplus. He didn't really have a role this week, and it reflects in his data because at times he spent a quarter without being targeted once. The pressure acts were good. Intercept possessions, fantastic. When he went higher up the ground to where Ollie was, he was fantastic at that. This might be something, and I'm not bagging Ollie because, you know, I love him. I think, and I've been saying it for 2 weeks, I think Ollie's in need of a rest, right? I think it's only fair. Speaking to Nick Power and stuff like that on the channel, talking about wellness and fitness, you can't keep playing him in physical positions. Voss wants a high halfback defensive. Do you move him here? Yes, you'd have to start him on the wing per se, but the way it formulates, people overlap him and underlap him.
Not bad.
Is that the role?
Well, I saw him marking. I thought his role was to mark Willie Rioli for the majority of the game. I saw him responsible for Rioli almost all of the game.
Personally, he was. And yeah, I think apart from that third quarter, it was good. What I mean by role is a role with the ball.
Oh, right. Like free him up a bit.
Yeah, so where you've got Nick Newman, you know what Nick Newman's doing. He's got his defensive responsibilities, but his role is to exit out of D50 down the left-hand side and get us inside 50. You've got Saad, win the ground ball, take off. Mitch McGovern, be the interceptor, use the ball through the corridor. I felt there was a real missing Jordan Boyd piece in this. Yeah. That guy that we flick out through the pocket, you've got a bit of space and a bit of time. I felt that was Cowan's position, and it left me after 3 get times of watching this game going, why don't you just play fucking Jordan Boyd?
Yeah.
Like play him, because then he would have been forced to. But I love Cowan. I'm a big fan, you know. I'm Moo certified. I just felt we can use him a bit more. And I'd love that position he ended up playing where Ollie was. I think he's dangerous there.
He's definitely more dangerous by foot. There was a particular moment which is really weird because he gave away a free kick. So it was the free kick he gave away to Georgiades. I think Georgiades ended up kicking the goal as well. Those of you who were at the game, do you remember it? And if you do, I don't even know how he got there in the first place. So Kemp bit on a lead, and then he was out of position. And Cowan came from, I'm not exaggerating, like it was like a 40-meter sprint, and I don't even know how he got there. He gave away the free kick in the end, and yes, a goal was kicked against us, but the way that they got around him, the rest of the defenders, I think Newey, Weitering, the way they got around him for that effort, I think spoke a lot to why they love him in the side and why they trust him. And yeah, it's an interesting point. Free him up a little bit, get him going the other end.
Do you know what I mean? Man, solid little game. I mean, he had that little blip in the third, I'd say. Yeah. I think we can all agree where I think Willie Rioli ran rampant.
Yeah.
But yeah, not much good defensive numbers from him, but just ball use this week. He didn't get it, and it's weird.
Yeah. So we get to 5, Lachie Cowan. And then we move along to George Hewett. That looks healthy. That looks like a traditional George Hewett, what you would want to see from George Hewett heat map. Is that right?
It is, yeah. And, you know, one of the things that's concerning me is we're getting a lot, and we've noticed this the last probably 4 or 5 weeks. You're getting a lot of players almost playing the same role.
Mm-hmm.
So that heat map is almost the same as Sam Walsh's.
Yes, and Chincotta's.
Yeah. Chincotta's got that little gap there.
Yeah.
And you see there, look, 26 pressure acts. This is, I mean, it's Nick Newman in the midfield. You know this guy's going to win everything. This guy's going to get everything back your way. He's the Patrick Cripps help. It feels weird that the setup this week, last week, and versus GWS has been almost 3 defensive midfielders with Walsh. Then it was Cerra. Then it was Jack Carroll. Then it was Kennedy playing that role. It doesn't quite make sense. One of them has to be aggressive, but this guy's the best at what he does in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah. Honest and disciplined. That's the mandate for George Hewett. He gets a 7.5 for his game. Okay. The next one is just a rating. It's Cunners.
He was on for 12 seconds.
It's tough, man. It's tough, and what's tough is, I mean, we're all frustrated. The poor guy can't get his body right. It's the same story, and I think the one person who would be the most frustrated is Dave Cunningham. It's tough to see an immediate writing off, like that's his career done. I mean, I thought it straight away, but to see the constant rhetoric around like this is the end of him, it's just a wretched run of luck. Like, what do you say?
The bit that broke my heart was the way he shook his head.
Yeah.
So if you watch it, Willie Rioli, it just shows how well Lachie Cowan did. Because Willie Rioli is a fucking tough bastard.
Yeah.
A tough bastard. He's hard as a coffin nail, right? Hard as a coffin nail. He lined him up. If you watched it, he lined him up. And it's the look that Cunners gives.
Just look, again,
he knew it was fucked. And it actually touched me a little bit because I was like, these players don't want to be injured.
Nah, man.
You know what I mean? And it was tough, but I mean, there it is. Jack Carroll came in, and hopefully, I'll cross fingers, pubic hair, everything. He gets one more chance to earn a contract.
Well, he gets. I mean, the 5 score.
It's a no score,
but it's a no score. Yeah, it's a no score, and it's a dislocated shoulder. Don't know the severity of it at this stage. In theory, you either just pop it back in, strap it up, play on, and get surgery at the end of the year potentially, or you just call it and you just go for it. So we'll get some information about that in the next few days. It's just sad.
I love John Holden's comment. I love John Holden's comment. I'd love him to drop down to VFL.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely don't think St Kilda people are taking the piss, I think, because it's Sauce. I mean, Sauce might take him. Because, I mean, Sauce fucking loves an injured player, but he's an interesting one. Do you know what I mean? He's an interesting one, Connors, because I feel like I don't think anyone would take him.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move along and wish him the best. Matt Kennedy. So last week, I think we all spoke about what we saw in that back half of the ground. This week, we saw him play a little bit more true to who he is. A bit more forward. How'd you watch his game? Mid-forward, I should say.
Oh, well, I mean, people ask about Jack Martin. We actually saw Jack Martin this week. We saw Matt Kennedy. Real interesting because Voss, I'm still convinced that if Carlton want to play 3 defensive midfielders, which is, we've seen it before. So we have seen, ironically, when Carlton led the charts in defence, stoppage defence, clearance defence, and clearance scores and stoppage scores, it was Kennedy, Hewett and Cripps were the on-ball pair. Cerra and Walsh would come in from out wide and centre bounce, and they'd be out the back in the forward part in stoppages. Really interesting that he played in full-time forward this week. Elite score involvements, led the team on ground. That should be blue. That's a colour error. Led the team on ground. Look where he took them marks as well. Very Elijah Hollands-esque from the start of the year. Led the team in marks inside 50. Charlie went down back. This guy played full forward on his own. and took 2 marks against Zerk Fascher, which isn't easy to do. 2 goals, really strong meters gained as well. This is something that we talk about half forward. You want to get the game moving forward. When you've got players like Saad at halfback on 100 meters gain, you're playing smaller. Kennedy understood the mandate, get the game moving forward, get it deep, make something happen. Incredible game by Matt Kennedy, and he just continues to impress. Finally, Voss has ended this halfback experiment. Fortunately, Cerra's got it at the moment. Be nice when we put a halfback there, but Kennedy, this is mid-forward. This is where he wants to be.
Yeah, I like it. Gets an 8.5. Wow. That's a
almost incredible, to be fair, from him.
Yeah. Then we move along the final player, which was the sub, which was Jack Carroll. Very, very heavily weighted on this right-hand side on the wing. What do you make of it?
Yeah, so stints in the midfield. Do you know what I mean? It worked out 13% centre bouncer tendencies, 22 times inside midfield. Ironically, I feel like Voss might have watched the Walsh Cerra video and thought I said Carroll. I didn't. I just said Cerra and Walsh. But interesting, because I don't quite get it. When it's inside midfield, in my opinion, it's as bad as anyone I've seen play in the midfield when it's around stoppage and clearance, because he's not strong enough. He doesn't use the ball strong enough, and he doesn't get rid of it quick enough. Around the ground, I don't mind it as a utility type midfielder, which I think is his role. I think this is his perfect game. He's not an inside midfielder, but he's not a winger. He's kind of just a midfielder. I liked it. But for me, I watched this game and I was like, why not Cerra?
Yeah.
Because every available department, all due respect to Carroll, I'm a fan. Any way you measure Jack Carroll, Cerra's better in every faculty.
I guess it goes back to the conversation. You know, you're rewarding VFL form by giving him a couple of weeks now, and I just don't know if this is when I say long term, I mean long term for this season. I don't know if it's a long term solution. I don't know if he's going to be in the side.
I think he's the perfect sub at this stage.
Yeah.
Because
okay, fair.
we can play him wing. We've played him half forward, played him on the ball. I love it. Like, as a wing, I think that was purely the methodology this week. I think if Voss was here, the plan was Cunningham to pinch it on the midfield, 11, 12, 15 minutes inside. And then third quarter, he'll probably run out of legs. We'll bring Carroll on. We'll slot Carroll somewhere else and we'll float somewhere else in. But interesting one. I mean, he did what he had to do. He wasn't shit. I'm just being harsh on him, but I feel like at this stage in your career, I should know what you were.
Yeah. So we get to 5.5. And thankfully, that's the end of the individual players there. Now we're about to look at the entire team and their ratings, which I think is going to be for very interesting viewing. Yeah. Well.
So chat, what do you make of this? I saw a few comments in the chat. Sorry, I just dropped my wedding ring.
You're right.
So if I'm going to be cynical, I have to be. I have to make sure that I've got the love of my wife. But I saw a few cynical comments in chat saying, "Oh, we must have won because we played well." If you're good at maths, and I do try and make it simple, I keep the numbers below 10 because my kids could count up to 10 when they were 4. So I figure everyone can. But you can see here, there's no blues. I always tell you if there's a blue, you've got a hope. So first thing, no one was elite. So who was quite harsh with elites? Cripps. Cripps was quite harsh, maybe. But the algorithm detects collective effort. So remember, they're not just judged on individual skill. They're also judged in their teamwork. And the premise of that is the great New England Patriots rank you 2 ways. Your individual game, but then you also get punished or rewarded as a team to instill the effort. So the algorithm replicates that. Belichick's a genius. We replicate that. So Cripps, 8. That's not good enough because if he's dominating the midfield, look at his mates. low end, almost yellows. 6 is just a pass. And then we look at the key areas we always talk about every week. Your ability to transition, your ability to score without the ball. Not one of them in a blue. This game here, I don't want to add fuel to the fire because everyone's panicking and fucking crying about it. But this is what the algorithm is detecting, a side that would finish 13th.
Wow.
It's okay, though. Just happened.
Shit happens.
Just happened. Like if we did this with Sydney, it's bad as well. It's not just us. But at the moment, we can't hide it. It's not hard enough. It's not strong enough. It's not good enough. Yeah. But they will fix it.
They've got time to fix it. They've just got to get a fucking wriggle on. Now, there are a few new slides here that I haven't seen, but I can see on the lineup that I want to get you to take us through. Oh, you've broken it down into quarters. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes a little bit like playing professional football for this club. Right. And Mighty Blues. So when it says -5, that's not a score. That basically means no score. It's 5 is what they start with. So they start with a 5, like Optadar, and it goes up and down throughout the game. So -5, it doesn't mean he's -5. It just means no score.
Right.
I've got you, Pete. Don't worry, mate. Right. So yeah, like playing football for this club, sometimes there is no reward for what you do. So you all ask, could we see it quarter by quarter? And Pommie was like, you know what I'd like to do on a Sunday morning? I could spend time with my kids. Nah, fuck it. I'll get each individual map and create a new graphics. Do you know what I mean? When I die and my kids say, why didn't Dad love me? He didn't spend enough time with me. Remember, I added 4 quarters. So it's all on you, that. But there we are. Let's look at it. Let's break this down. So I've made the little things smaller. You can see Carlton's offense was good. Everything else was bobbins, which I think we can agree. Let's get into the nitty-gritty stats. So you'll see, right, I want you to understand this, right? These are heat maps for possession. So possession heat maps have to be used the right way. And there is a common misconception, right? And this week, I've gone to my good mate up at Bendigo, right? Level 3 AFL coach, right? He loves it. And I've got him to get us something special for the next slide. But one of the common misconceptions is Carlton move the ball down the wing. Why do we kick it long and slow, right? So we'll talk about that in a sec. So stay tuned. I'm going to dispel that myth because if I have to see it one more time, I'm probably going to punch myself in the face. And that's
the confidence with which it gets spoken about too is amazing.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? I love discussion, but let's not lie. But let's look. Stoppage, -29. Shocking. Horrendous. We know that's an issue. We always say that don't ever look at this stat because Dan Hoyne did this AFL ladder and Carlton won the flag because of turnover scores. Turnover scores is brilliant, right? But this stoppage one, Daniel Hoyne won't tell you, I'll try and explain it to you, has to break even. Has to break even. If it outweighs your turnover, that's not good. Now, there's 2 ways to look at this. Turnover is the most important stat in sport because it means you're dangerous without the ball. Defensive scores are the second most important stat in football because it means you are dangerous when you are vulnerable. When you are vulnerable. Obviously, if you're in the defensive half, I'm going to kick a goal. These other 2 stats are a concern this week. Forward half, if you can't lock the ball in and give your defence a break, momentum will always favour the team that wins this score because it means you can gain momentum and you can wrestle it back. Stoppage scores. Great question, mate, Pete, mate. Albert nailed it. Why is everyone defensive in the midfield? That's why. That they are reacting to it by putting the pressure around the ball, protecting their side of the ground, which then is not giving them any options offensively. And when it does happen, Walsh has got to spin and turn around 8 people. With the rule change, spinning is the worst fucking thing you can do because you get one spin. Do you know what I mean? It's like my cousins when they run the fairs. They like to be the stereotype. They run fairs, but they only let you have one turn for free. The next one you pay for. So that's a real interesting one. That's an area there the Blues have got really fixed, like now, because it's becoming a habit. Because what happens is teams flood the corridor, Carlton then start to react to that. The forward line gets deeper, the midfield gets deeper, then you have space to play in around the ball. And that's where Carlton really struggle. And that's why the forward half is the sister of the stoppage scores. The defensive half and the turnover scores are sisters as well.
Yeah. It's a really interesting look when you break it down into quarters. Such a contrast.
Yeah, so if we go to the next slide, I can explain all of these quarters, right? So a very good mate of mine is currently, forgive me, it's either level 4 or it's the last one. I can't remember, but anyway, he's sent us this book, right? So he sent us this little thing about how you defend the rebound. So he's currently on his way. God bless him, working through the ranks. I'm very proud of him. But he's revealed the book to me. So this, what we're going to look at here is, you see quarter 4's Carlton's map. It's down the wing, isn't it?
Yes.
Terry, tell me why that's bad, or what you know about why that's bad.
Well, I think it's a very basic level of analysis to say, stop kicking it down the wing. Why do we kick it long and high? But when you actually think about it, when you're under pressure, what's the highest percentage play? But the thing is, the audience is, people are so impressionable. So when you see the misinformation spread and then it just catches like wildfire, it's really hard to dispel it.
Yeah, and you know what? I can tell you for facts, players, coaches, they get fucked off about it, because when people say don't kick long into the wing, that's like saying to a cancer patient, just don't have cancer. That's like saying to a homeless person, just buy a fucking house. Like, if it was that simple, then just do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, my pop used to say to me in my golf career, just stop being shit. It didn't help me. I found it quite funny, because I was like, oh, fucking cheers, mate. Where the fuck were you yesterday? But it's kind of annoying. But let's have a look at it. Let's break it down. So the AFL rule, the AFL coaching mantra, which is heavily made by a guy called Lee Matthews. So Lee Matthews has partaken to that. Another coach you might never have heard of, a guy called Parkin. You might have heard of him. He's wrote these books that all the young aspiring coaches up and down the country do, these modules. So let's see what it says about defending rebound. So Carlton are the best side, one of the best sides, and you're going to see this. So on your screen, you'll see 3 examples. Now, just so you know, there is one quarter that looks like quarter 4 from Carlton, nearly every game, all the time, from every side. Not just this year, but you can check this yourself and go and look at the heat maps. Not just this year, last year. As far as heat maps have been taken, they will always, without exception, be one of these quarters from every side. Now, why is that? Let's look what the manual says. Right? Let's see what the manual says. So, when you're defending the rebound, it says to allow short possession 30 metres and play man-on-man or a zone, particularly focusing on shutting down or stopping the second phase kick. So what that means is, right, I want you to imagine this is the goal square. The first 30 metres is a smaller arc. They call that the danger zone, right? It's called the danger zone. It's the danger zone for 2 reasons. The danger zone defensively, because if you turn it over, it's 100% success rate nearly from kicking a goal from 30% in, unless you're Toby Bedford. But it is like, I think for the last 30 years, 30 metres in is something like 92.1% goal kicking from. So that's why it's a danger zone. It's also a danger zone, though, for the opposition when they're defending it. So if I'm defending Terry kicking in, that 30 metres, if you get the ball there and you manage to do that short kick out and use it to Boyd or Weitering, and it opens up the corridor because, keep that in your mind, because of how zonal systems work in the AFL, right? Often the first kick is protected by the majority of coaching. Now, this is one of the few times you will see something here in today's AFL, man on man, right? You actually see teams often go man on man, right? So Port don't, but Sydney, man on man, kicking and rebound defence in the first 30 metres. They don't want you to have that short kick, and they killed Carlton because we like that short kick. However, if there is a clear possession within this structure, then the next kick's second phase, so I've got the kick in the 30 metres, is very damaging. It's opened up the corridor. I can go coast to coast. That's what we're looking for. Now, here's the caveat. Get ready. The opposition, if you take that kick away, will go down the fat side of the ground, brackets wings, to create contests. This allows opposition to kick over the press and create 50-50 contests. So this is the percentage play. Ben's brilliant, right? Do you know what I mean? You kick it down the line. It's a very good method. 3 reasons this is good, right? So I want you to bear with me. Go to the next slide, Terry, while we explain the 3 reasons. Reason number 1 that's good is it's away from your fucking goal, right? The old saying in soccer, when in doubt, kick the fucker out, right? Just get it away from your goal. 2, why kicking down the line is good when you're under pressure. You have now 2 waves, maybe 3, of defence. If you go down the corridor, you have 1 wave of defence. That first 30-metre danger goes on kick. And there is the danger zone kick. And what we've highlighted here is the 3-4-5 zonal defence system. Now, why is it called the 3-4-5? Because it's in rows. 3 is the first row, protecting the short kick outside of D. 4 in the second, and then 5. And then what teams will do is they create what's called a fluid zone at halfway, and that either floats to the long kick on the left or the long kick on the right. Usually it's 2 key defenders and a small defender to mop up the ball. Now, what I wanted to explain to you here is Carlton play a 3-4-5 zone defence. So do Brisbane, so do Port, right? Very, very common in the AFL. It's, I think, all but 2 teams play it. All the teams in the AFL, though, play that wing. And then the last examples, I just showed you their most recent games where everyone went down the wing like Carlton. Same percentage as well. It's when pressure goes up over 190, you see that. I want to show you this first stat, though. Kicking scores. So the most over-exaggerated example of kicking down the wing comes from a kick-in, because it's effectively a rebound 50 with in basically static. They're slowed. Everyone's in position. It's a dress rehearsal for one. Look, Carlton are ranked 11th at scoring from kick-ins. So are Sydney. Brisbane, double. So if the best side in the league kick down the wing as well when they're in trouble, the most average side from kick-ins can do it. If they do it. This is really important to note, though. You will see 3-4-5. You will see heavy forward presses. That's an in vogue word. Be used by all the top teams, right? Because the best time to win the ball back is nearest the opposition's goal. Carlton, look, 3rd best side in the league. Sydney, 1st. Brisbane, 4th. All of them kick down the wing when they're in shit. And it's why their ability to score is so high. They do that. It's a safe option. It's past the zone. But also, the more you do it, you've got to have a lot of movement ahead of you and a lot of risk associated with going down the corridor. If Carlton just went down the corridor all the time, that 3-4-5 would become a 3-7-2. There is a 3-7-2 system. And that is for a team that doesn't have kick power from defensive half. You see teams utilise that, particularly against Eagles this year. They flood that middle channel because they haven't got the power in their legs to kick over the press. Carlton do. Saad, Cowan, Weitering, all have the ability, and Mitch McGovern, to kick over the press. 67 to 70 metres on the left-hand side. It's the safest way to kick the ball out of your half. Otherwise, you're in shit. It's not pretty, though, and it's ugly.
Yeah. So, in other words, we play the percentages.
Yeah. And a great way to see it is Carlton's average over the last 5 weeks. I went and did this manually, right? Me and my mate who worked on this together. 25 points of our defensive half have come from that wing kick. Because what that does is when you kick down the wing, I told you, you've got 3 people usually on the defence there, and then 1 in the goal square protecting. What it allows Carlton to do is, if they spoil it, the aim's not to mark it. The trick is creating the contest and then getting the ball out there quickly. Carlton, that's when they create that overload. When you see Elijah streaming forward, Walsh overlapping him, Ollie backing him up, Carlton then hurt them from that counter press. So it literally, you can't slag it off because it's a situation-based thing. If only one player in our team's got the ability to take and beat the zone through the corridor, that's Mitch McGovern. But it's so easy to defend. So Carlton have got to look at it, right? You've got to look at it. This week, why did it go wrong? It's not kicking it down the wing. There's no Harry Mackay. There's no TDK, who are usually placed there. You've got Charlie Curnow fullback. He should be up there. You're kicking it to Motlop and Owies. It's a bad play then. However, it's the only play available to the defenders, because if the defenders went down the corridor, that would have been goals. So very important to understand this is taught to coaches up and down the land forever. And Albert nails it. You shouldn't be criticising the kick. You should be criticising the application to break even at the contest. But it was
this is why we miss Harry Mackay. Because Harry has a magical ability to, first of all, always half the contest at a bare minimum, but a lot of the time take that mark. And taking that contested mark around the ground on the wing allows us to win the territory battle.
Spawn. Hey, chat.
Yeah. It's good.
Carlton Football Club, if you're watching, you've got my BSB and bank account number. Flick it over. You're helping good. Your defensive coaches out there, mate.
I think it's a bit of context, which is always nice.
Aaron Hamill, call me.
We've got Aaron Hamill. We've got 9 minutes to go, so let's power through the next few slides. Matt Kennedy, the Horizon Finance Group player of the game. Now, I'm not going to mess this up this week. Chat, who was the riser of the week? Have a guess. Who was the player that scored the highest score compared to what they were predicted to score? Who was it?
We've only just begun. I have made the next slide shorter for you, Terry, as well.
Very good. We'll wait for the chat to have a think about it.
Tell you what, some of you guys in chat are fucking geniuses, just so you know.
Okay. That player.
Seven Fernandez, brilliant.
That player was Matt Kennedy. Surprise. Very good. So the Horizon Finance Group riser of the week. And then we go back to... Yeah, go.
I was going to say, I've heard a rumour that Voss wants Kennedy to win that. That's why he's been fucking with his positions, because he knows the algorithm predicts him to score shit and then he puts him back where he should be. I reckon Voss has got money on Kennedy winning riser.
Well, Cripps is still leading the Player of the Year award with an average rating of 8.75 for the year. And just quickly...
Come down 0.16 though. Disgusting, Cripps. Sort yourself out.
Yep. Now we're going to look at 3 players who hurt us. And again, we've been doing this for the last few months, I think since the Essendon game, just to give us an idea of the type of player to look out for and if we can see patterns. The first one is Willem Drew. Pom, 60 seconds. What have you got? What did he do? Why did he hurt us?
30 pressure acts, 12 tackles, 7 ground ball gets, 4 score involvements. For a mid-winger, which is what we want Walsh to become in this scenario, fantastic. He gave us a nightmare. Carlton couldn't get any halfback drive. And when we did lose the ball in the forward 50, this guy was a constant metronome. Hardworking, industrious, complete performance. Someone who watched a lot of videos this week, Drew, he did. Well done.
Good player. 100th game. 9.5. Alir. Interesting heat map. The perfect.
Yeah, and a guy that had a field day once Carlton moved all forwards off. God bless him. Didn't see anyone of normal adult male's height for 2 quarters. But
can you imagine being him? Can you imagine being him? Like, you're struggling to contain Charlie in the first half, and you get to the third quarter, and Charlie's gone to fullback, and you're like, "Is this God? Has God stepped in?"
Alir must have thought fucking Ken Hinkley was Santa Claus when he went out third quarter and saw that he was on Matty Owies. He was like, "What's going on, baby?" But let's be honest, 10 one-on-one contests to win 60% of them is phenomenal, because that means you've been targeted. Intercept possessions, intercept marks, and score launches. This guy had a field day in the second half, especially when Young moved in the first half as well, because it allowed him to play in front of Charlie, not on Charlie. And not many clubs have the luxury of having 3 very impressive defenders who can intercept to play on Charlie.
Yeah. And then finally, Mitch Georgiadis, who it's becoming a bit of a habit now. He does
Audi Harry Mackay. Well.
Yeah.
Worked up the ground. As we said, part of the reason Carlton's forward half defence was not as good as it usually is go back to the little lecture we did on tactics 10 minutes ago. They had that target, and Mitch was that one. Incredible work off the ground. But then up forward, he took his chances. He didn't have many, it has to be said, but 3 goals, 6 score involvements, dished it out. And I put inside 50s on there, just so you can see the difference between a key forward and then Charlie having to... If only Charlie was quick enough to kick the ball inside 50 and then run and catch it.
Right.
If only.
So that's us. Now, see, after seeing what we've seen, assuming Harry will be back, what's missing apart from this mentality of ours? Like, how do we get the mentality back? How do we get the spark, the energy, the connection back?
I mean, that's a long answer. But I mean, your 2 trains of thought. You either reset or you just play through it. I think the boys have just got to play through it. I think you bring Boyd back into that team, you bring Harry back into that team, and you go again. Do you know what I mean? You go again. And as quickly as you lost it, you'll find it again. But they've got to acquit themselves, and they've got to be bold and brash. Yeah. And I'm sick of Voss saying system. Said it in my review. System, but then he changes the system. Let the system flourish.
Let it work its way through it.
Yeah. I don't think he should. There's a passage of play. Go back and watch the 10 minutes in the third. We're dominating that first 5 minutes. We win the clearance. Ball comes in, it comes out. It comes in, it comes out. They get a cheap free kick. They go down and kick the goal. And that was when Voss suddenly made the adjustments. It was like, oh shit, the stoppage and clearance game's gone. Oh no. He should have just said, look, the second quarter, you've killed these fuckers. Go again. Just keep going. Yeah. You'll break them down. And I feel like he just needs to be a bit less... I feel like he's been very reactive the last 7 weeks. I don't know why.
Chat, I think we need to fire up. I think we all need to fire the fuck up. There's a choice now, really, for everyone in the next 4 weeks. Inside the club, outside the club, everything. We can either sit here and say, we're fucked. Hawthorn's going to belt us in 2 weeks. Collingwood's going to beat us next week. We're not going to win a game for the rest of the year. We can do that. But what fun is that? Or we can stop moping around and get on with it. It's been a poor month. It's been an average month of footy. July was not good to us at all. It was shit. But it's not over. And I feel like we're talking about it like it's over at times, which is so weird. Like we're ready to just give it up already, just like that after a shit month. Weird.
Mate, I don't hear any bell.
True.
Oh, man. And Terry's spot on, man. Like, fuck, let's go out there and smash fucking Magpies. Like, that's...
Mate, Collingwood this week.
Look, I haven't put up with the shit I have done on this channel for 5 years to fucking have one finals run. Don't know about you, Terry, but like fucking dickheads with polar bears calling me a Pommie prick and shit. I haven't fucking fronted up every week to give up now. We're going to fucking come out, mate. We're going to come out. Collingwood fucking ruin their season, completely underline that fucker. How good would it be as well when Pendlebury did that shit-eater's grin at the car park? Oh, but don't you feel sorry for them, Scott? No. Wouldn't it be great to send him off fucking biscuit-arsed? Let's go and win this thing.
No, that's exactly right. So that's the focus. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. I'm glad that we got to do it on a Sunday. So that way tomorrow, it's the Blue Abroad show. No fucking around. Get straight into it. Move into Collingwood. And we'll go from there. We're going to thank Horizon Finance Group for sponsoring the show. Pommie, thank you for putting the work in that you do. And stick around because the Almost Blues brothers are live. Go Blues.